Hi, it's Mark from Mark of the Cyberbeast. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had an amazing weekend. Today, we're going to talk a bit about Q2 deliveries and some of the things happening with Tesla. But first, got to tell you what happened about my weekend. So, went to Conway's Riverfest, saw my band Night Ranger. Jack Blades handed me a drumstick, got some guitar picks, got the set list, chatted with Brad Gillis for a little bit. Awesome concert. It was amazing. They always rock. So hats off to Night Ranger, 43 years kicking ass, and it was a great weekend. Took my friend Steve, we had a great time. So that was my weekend. That was the highlight of it, at least. Did some jet skiing as well. Now today, we're gonna talk a little bit about Q2 deliveries, what that all means, because Tesla's not just a car company, okay? And some other news that's happening with Tesla. So recently, the CEO of Ford, who's Chris Farley's was it cousin or brother, something like that, announced that he was looking at autonomous driving and licensing it for Ford vehicles, but he thinks LiDAR is important, which is kind of a dig at Tesla because Tesla doesn't use LiDAR, they just use cameras and vision. So be interesting to see what happens in the future. I mention that because Q2 deliveries dropped this week, and it's going to be, I don't think they announced the exact day. It's probably going to be the 1st or 2nd of July. There's speculation of where it should be. I don't think they're going to hit their numbers. Many people don't think so. And this is probably going to drop the stock price below 300, not tax or investing advice or information, but it's definitely going to ding the stock price a little bit. The thing that's concerning is everyone's focused on Tesla and the cars and deliveries, but the reality is there's a lot more money from other things. So if you look at the battery storage component, battery storage has a high margin. They do lots of sales. It's a big part of what Tesla is. Also, you have the AI portion of Tesla. And now, while Optimus is not out yet, that is still untapped revenue that you're going to start seeing hopefully when those things start getting released next year. So the reality is, there's a lot of money companies, especially Tesla, invests. They invest it for years, okay? And their stock price doesn't go very far. It doesn't move much. But then after that investment pans out after a period of time and the product gets released, that's when you see things shoot up. Now, if you look at Tesla car sales, auto sales, just not FSD sales or anything else, just auto sales, okay? When they first came out, you'll notice that the sales, definitely shot up and they went up substantially. You cannot have that hockey stick style growth forever. You're gonna reach some plateaus and move up from there for a couple different reasons. Some are because, at first it was like the only EV in town. There were some other EVs, but they just really were down here compared to Tesla. So if you wanted an EV, Tesla was it. Now there's other EV companies out there. There's other companies making EVs that are also still making ICE vehicles, and theirs aren't too bad. Now, the thing about the sales is not only do people have more choices, but also too, Tesla doesn't have a whole lot of options, right? You've got your 3, you've got your Y, your S and X, and your Cybertruck, and they're their generic models. But some people, they still want either a larger vehicle, right? Or they want something that's a little bit different. Or they want something like a Ford Lightning that is not different, like a Cybertruck, right? So you've got people where the Tesla look, it doesn't really impress them much. They look at the Audis and the Mercedes and they think, wow, these are cool looking vehicles, because they're still focused on that look. They don't care about the self-driving, probably because they haven't used it. And if you've used FSD more than once, if you use it for a day or for a week, you get so reliant on it, especially if you're doing rush hour commutes or if you're doing long trips. Now, one of the reasons why Teslas are so popular in California and South Florida is the commutes suck, okay? And by putting it in FSD, it relieves a lot of stress for people driving to work, all right? Now, that hockey stick sales we talked about, you know, sales are kind of waning. You know, part of it is the economy. The economy hasn't been 110%, right? The last year of Biden, things were just really touch and go. And I do think the economy is in the right direction. The stock market is gangbusters, but the stock market is not Main Street. Wall Street's not Main Street. Main Street's still trying to catch up, okay? So people are still not spending the money on things anymore because they just don't have it. So I do think all auto sales, you know, aren't doing what they should be doing in a good economy, especially with higher interest rates. Even though Tesla has done things like 0% or 1% interest lately just to try to drive sales, okay? Now, I know there's some issues with Elon and politics, but I don't think that really affected new sales that much. I do think, though, that you've got people who they still haven't bought on to the fact that the total cost of ownership of an EV is that much lower, okay? And they're also afraid of, what if I have to replace the batteries? It's $40,000, you know, and there's all this FUD that people read, and they haven't really pushed forward on that. But again, you know, everyone's focused on these delivery numbers in Q2. You'd want to see the sales continue to increase, but you're going to have some ebbs and flows with any sales process. So I do think that, you know, we're at a little bit of a setback. It's been about a year. I think it was the middle of last year is where you started seeing the sales kind of wane. They're not hitting their numbers. Now, when we say hitting their numbers, Tesla's numbers are year over year positive growth, okay? So if it's making the same numbers, or if it's just a little lower, okay, yes, you're not making the same numbers as previous years, but you also have to realize there's a certain saturation rate, okay? The people who have moved to EVs, a lot of them have, especially with some of these tax incentives that are going away. You've got Tesla Solar, you've got Tesla Powerwalls and PowerShare Gateway, okay? And you've got the whole gigapacks for the power companies and for hospitals and things like that. And again, you're gonna start seeing the AI play with Optimus next year, and that income is gonna be partial too. The FSD subscription income, that needs to start building up. And I think you will once you start seeing the next phase of autonomous driving. Now, one of the news things you heard about is on June 27th, a day before the deadline that Elon put on there, they had someone from Austin, Texas buy a Model Y. The vehicle, they videotaped it, leaving the factory, driving itself to the customer's home, okay? And did it flawlessly, okay? I'm not sure if it was like 27 miles or something like that. But the cool thing was, it did it flawlessly. Then you find out when it gets there, the Tesla team had to downgrade the FSD version, okay? So evidently, what we're driving with 13.2.9 FSD, which is good, there's something better out there. That something better is what's fueling those robo-taxis, okay? Now, it's also doing this home delivery. Now, this is a hardware 4, this is not hardware 5. So, you gotta wonder, okay, this next new version, version 14, sounds like it's all that and then some. When's that gonna come out? We also heard about a major release for spring, summer with added security features, with adding more cameras for the Sentry, and also the newer FSD version. We haven't seen that yet, okay? So I'm kind of curious as to what's the rationale for this delay. There's also been some reports on X of some Model Ys with some camo footage over certain parts of the vehicle. There's talk about a Model Y Plaid. There's talk about the lower price like variant of Model 3 and Model Y. No one really knows for sure. I do think though a Model Y Plaid be interesting, right? If we can get that low price down, but you've got that Model 3 Plaid. So the question is, what's Tesla doing, okay? There was talk about that lower price, $25,000, they call it like a Model Q or a Model 2. No one really knew for sure. like a $25,000 EV, but maybe they're just going to kind of dumb down the 3 and the Y, and they're also going to soup up the Y, right? And make it make a plaid option. Maybe they're not going to add more types of vehicles. They're just going to create more options of the same vehicles they already have. We're probably going to find more of this out on the quarter end call. That's probably going to be coming up as the earnings come out in a couple weeks. The deliveries come out before earnings. And with the deliveries, they expect to be a little bit lower than the target. The thought is that the Tesla stock is going to pull back, and that's fine. If you chart Tesla, if you look at it, you'll see it's probably good for another pullback. It pulled back recently to 290, was not there long. And if you saw my posts on X and other places, I said Tesla was going to 300, but it won't be there long. So if you're dollar cost averaging on stocks, it's a good time to get in, but don't wait. I said it. And I'm going to say it again. Tesla's probably going to go below 300. I'm not sure, though, how long it's going to be there. It may go as low as 270, but I do think it's going to start going up with the information that'll be coming out. Elon's usually pretty coy and plays it close to the vest with information on the quarterly calls and quarterly meetings. But maybe this time he's going to release some stuff because Tesla's been quiet for a bit. You know, they dropped this one delivery, they dropped the robo-taxi, which has been going flawlessly. Coincidentally, though, Waymo deployed in Atlanta. I just saw a video of a car cutting across an intersection very illegally, but no one reported that because no one hates Waymo, they just hate Tesla. Okay, so don't get caught up in all the FUD. I do think, though, it's always good to get in early. I think Tesla right now is a great time to buy stock. Again, not tax or investing advice or information. It's just I can see where this is going. We just have to get the media to really ease up on Elon, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. What we're going to see, though, the car numbers, people still think Tesla's a car company, so whenever the cars don't meet those goals, they like to ding the stock. I think you're going to see reports of all these gigapacks being sold. They just had a $500 million deal in China. I think people are going to finally start getting it. You can't put all the emphasis on the cars. So investors don't know what to make of this company. There's never been one like it before, right? So you kind of play it by ear. So that's my info for this week. Again, it's Monday. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. We've got 4 more episodes this week. Also want to quickly mention Cybertruck and the keys. We're making progress. We're going to start putting together stops and trips. This is a lot of work, so I may have to miss a video or 2 here and there to schedule everything, but this is going to take weeks to set up. It's going to take weeks to do and weeks to edit, but this is going to be a lot of content of all the cool places in the Florida Keys, all the charging spots, where you can stay, where you can drink, where you can go do stuff, because the Keys are the best part of Florida. I think of the country, because it's like a different country down there. These islands connected by roads that, you know, you're right in the middle of the ocean. You're stranded in the middle of the ocean. It's just so interesting and cool. Anyway, I digress. Folks, thank you for joining me today. Let's see what happens this week on Q2 Deliveries with Tesla. But remember, it's more than just car sales. Thanks for visiting me today. And remember, like, comment, subscribe. We're going to see you again tomorrow.